Zelensky has made one of his more audacious comments, and he said that Putin will die soon, that's a fact, and it will all be over. It's not the kind of prognosis one expects from a wartime leader unless he moonlights for the Lancet. But it raises a deliciously dark question, one I've asked repeatedly, and I've toyed with this as a joke, I've toyed with it as something seemingly truthful. Is Putin already dead, or at least politically so? Or is he playing his final act while clinging to power like the embalmed grip of an autocrat in denial? So there are two very plausible ideas. One, that Vladimir Putin may no longer be in full control or even alive. And even if he is alive, the clock is ticking and his time is running out. His allies are running out. His options are running out. Back in October 2023, rumours began swirling, courtesy of Russian SVR defectors, that Putin had actually died and his inner circle was using a body double. But the body double thing has pretty well been proven. Of course, it sounds a little bit like a Netflix conspiracy thriller, more than a New York Times exclusive, but in Kremlinology, you measure truth not by fact, but by the frequency of denial. And a Kremlin aide allegedly ordered Russian scientists to discover anti-aging remedies, and there were reports of Putin bathing in antler blood. Yes, you heard that right. Red deer antler blood to stay youthful. And speculation persists of terminal cancer or Parkinson's, despite Moscow's silence and the increasingly waxy complexion of the man that we see on camera. So is Putin alive? Maybe. But the real question is whether he's politically already dead, just too embalmed in his own mythology to notice. And in a way, that's the real tragedy, not only for Putin, but for his neighbour as well, for Ukraine. Because Putin cannot surrender without dying politically. His regime is built not on ideas, but on image. And being the man who saved Russia from chaos, from NATO, from the imaginary Ukrainian Nazis who saved the Russian Orthodox Church, if he pulls out of Ukraine, what happens to that lie? Well, that series of lies. What happens to the war narrative, the macho myth? The man who's riding shirtless on horses, even if he needs a stepladder to get up there. As one Russian general once said, you can't withdraw 1 million soldiers without giving them a parade or a scapegoat. And that's why even a so-called ceasefire is viewed by Kyiv as a strategic ruse. It's Russia regrouping, rearming, rehearsing Act 2. Putin isn't offering peace, he's buying time. And in the background, he's banking on Trump's ability to turn things round, like a gambler waiting for his lucky charm to manifest at the casino. Maybe this button. I will get some sort of lucky what is it, bars or something. And so we return to Donald. And Robert Fox rightly calls the dynamic between Putin and Trump a tango, though to my mind it's more like a dance of death between a bear and a man in golf shoes. Clumsy, dangerous, and someone always ends up with a concussion. And in this case, it could be both of them, and probably terminal. Trump wants a deal, not just any deal. He wants a big deal which will put him in the history books. He wants to end the war, claim the Nobel Peace Prize, ride into history with Putin grinning beside him like they've just flipped Ukraine in some sort of condo deal in Miami. But beware, the art of the deal meets the art of delusion, and Trump sees Ukraine as a problem to solve. Putin sees it as an existential war. One wants headlines, the other wants territory and survival, and Europe rightly sees danger. And that brings us to where the real difference lies. Europe, bless its dithering multilingual heart, has finally found clarity. It knows it cannot rely on America in the form of Trump. France, Germany, the UK, the Nordics, the Baltics, they've drawn a line in Ukraine. And they may squabble about jets and budgetary protocols. They may argue about everything, including Brexit, but they will agree on one thing: Russia must not be allowed to win. And Europe is preparing for the worst. The NATO summit in The Hague This June will likely be less about peacekeeping and more about contingency planning. What happens if Trump cuts a deal? What happens if Trump pulls out of NATO? What if Ukraine collapses militarily? Robert Fox put it bluntly, strategic failure is something we're very poor at assessing. And yet, very soon, this may be the reality that Europe and NATO is facing. So here's where we stand. Ukraine is bracing for a renewed Russian offensive in the spring. Putin is trying to break through in Sumy and Kharkiv. Yet the army is slow, demoralized, badly led, and Ukraine, with Western tech and reliance, still holds the edge in logistics, long-range strike capability, and innovation. But the politics of this arena is not a boxing match. It's not a boxing match. It's chess, and it's played on a much wider stage, with vodka breath and broken promises, betrayal. And even if Putin dies or is dead, after Putin there will be Putin, said the Duma chairman Volodin. He almost confirms my worst joke, doesn't he? After Putin there will be Putin, because Putin is an essential concept, and that's why he's not dead now. The system that Putin invented, the system that was designed around Putin, with all the various factions that support him or don't support him, or are in harmony and blessed by him, or whatever. All of that is dependent on the idea of Putin. If Putin didn't exist, we would invent him, and they have. Unless defeat cracks the myth. Unless a failed offensive leads to mutiny, collapse, and the end of the illusion. Zelensky might be half joking when he says he will die soon, but that's a strategic truth. And behind that truth, and behind the gallows humour, is the reality. And Putin is not immortal. Even the fake Putin is not immortal. His regime is brittle. His body may last another year. His war perhaps less. And so we're approaching a decision point this summer. Either Putin gets his win through diplomacy with Trump, or he loses this war of attrition. Or the curtain falls and the audience is left wondering whether the actor was ever on stage at all.